Now, part 3 of my experiment brings me back to my solid sodium hydroxide pellets. To that solid sodium hydroxide, I'm going to be adding 50 milliliters of 0.75 molar HCl. So I want my sodium hydroxide to mix with my HCl. I want that neutralization reaction to take place. I want to observe, well, what temperature takes place whenever that volume of HCl is able to cause the sodium hydroxide to dissociate and be neutralized. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to get the temperature of the liquid. And in not surprising fashion, just like everything else I've been working with, that has a temperature of 20.5 degrees Celsius. So I'm going to put my thermometer into my calorimeter. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer my HCl directly into my calorimeter. Now, what's happening here is two different things. One, the sodium hydroxide is going into solution. Two, the sodium hydroxide is neutralizing the HCl. So I'm watching, my temperature does seem to be rising at a little bit of a higher rate, which is an interesting observation. I'm stirring because I've got to break up my pellets. My temperature is, right now it's at 30 degrees Celsius. It's at 31, 32. Oh, interesting. So what's happened here is, and it's at 34, 35 degrees Celsius. So I've got two things taking place. I've got the neutralization and the ionization, or the dissolving of my sodium hydroxide. It's at temperature is at 40 degrees Celsius. So this definitely is a warm solution. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Wow. This is definitely warm. And if you compare this to what we've previously seen, you definitely want to keep stirring. It appears that my temperature is already beginning to drop because it hit 45 degrees Celsius. Everything is dissolved. It's now at 41.5 degrees Celsius. So, and that drop was pretty quick. Yeah, 41.5. It looks like it's probably not going to get any higher than that. All right. So essentially, what I observed with this was I saw the temperature go up, hit 45 degrees Celsius, and then begin dropping down. And as it continues to drop down, it's 41 degrees Celsius now. So essentially, you could kind of break our different parts down into, well, processes. You could say our first process, or the first part of our experiment, was getting sodium hydroxide to go into solution. There was a heat associated with that. The second part was neutralization of sodium hydroxide neutralizing hydrochloric acid. And then the third part was sodium hydroxide neutralizing hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide going into solution. So those are the three parts of this experiment. Now, there's a little bit that you have to kind of break down in terms of the steps and the data that you collect and processing of that data. Looking at these reactions, they all produced heat, so they all exported heat to the environment, so those are exothermic reactions. And they seem to have different levels of or different magnitudes of how exothermic they were. All right, well, I hope that was helpful, and have a good one.